In our dummy case, the vehicle examiner found shortcomings in the test standards applied when he carried out a re-examination of a recently tested vehicle. The contemplated cessation letter to the tester cites shortcomings amounting to 40 points. The letter also cites a previous 30-point formal warning. The tester admits that he missed the defects and states that he'll be more vigilant if he's allowed to stay in the scheme. We'll assume that the tester carried out a satisfactory mystery shopper test 2 years ago and is therefore entitled to 10 credit points. So what does the point system lead us to in this case, Jake?
Well, every case will be assessed on its merits and the particular set of circumstances that led to the contemplated cessation letters. The points in this case, in the flowchart in Appendix 8.6, will indicate the maximum sanction that can be applied here after full consideration of the current case and the previous case that led to the formal warning letter.
So every case is unique and assessed accordingly?
Well, that's quite right, yes.
So shall we have a look at the flowchart and determine the maximum sanction?
OK. Would you like to take us through it, Robert?
Well, first of all, the current case is scored at 40 points, so the third section of the flowchart applies, and there is an outstanding formal warning, so Formula A applies.
And that's right. Formula A is the points from the current case, plus any points from any unspent formal warnings, less any credit points.
So in our dummy case, we have 40 points for the current case, plus 30 points for the unspent formal warning, less the 10 credit points. That's a total of 60 points.
That's right, and if we refer to the flowchart, you'll see that because the Formula A comes to 50 points or more, the maximum sanction we can apply here is cessation.
And if this were a real case, how long would the cessation last?
Well, Section I of the testing guide indicates that it would normally be for 2 years. However, it can be extended to 5 years if the case is a result of serious fraud, dishonesty or gross negligence, as laid down in Appendix 8.1.
And would the cessation start immediately?
No, normally it would be 35 working days after the issue of the notice of cessation. But however, VOSA can reduce that if they think there's a considerable risk to road safety.
And how is that assessed?
Well, usually if the current case scores 100 points or more, that period can be reduced to 10 working days, or even 1 working day if the current case scores 500 points or more.
In our dummy case, if there hadn't been a previous formal warning to consider, the flowchart would have led us to a formal warning as the sanction.
And that's right, and that would normally apply for 5 years, although it can be reduced to 2 years for shortcomings that are listed in Appendix 8.4. It's also worth noting that the nominated tester may be required to attend additional training course and be successful at it.
And in that case, would the training have to be completed within a particular time frame?
That's right, and that will be stated in the letter. If the tester fails to attend the training course, then his authority to test will cease until such time as he successfully completed any training.
Let's move on to appeals. Can you take us through the appeals process?
OK. As well as appeals, we'll also look at the formal warning review process that was introduced in 2007.
OK, let's start with formal warning reviews. What exactly are they?
Well, there never has been a statutory right of appeal against the issue of a formal warning at the time it was issued. They would only be considered by appeals section in cases where the formal warning was cited in a further case, which subsequently led to cessation.
And so what's changed?
Well, after consultation with the trade industry, the authorised examiner and nominated testers were granted a non-statutory right of a review of any formal warning.
OK, so what's the process?
Well, if the authorised examiner or tester believes that the issue of a formal warning letter is unjustified or that the allocation of points is excessive, they may request a review of the case.
And is there a timescale in which they have to make that request?
Yes, there is. They will have to apply in writing within 14 working days of the date of the issue of the formal warning letter.
And where do they write to?
Well, they'll have to write to the local VOSA office that issued that warning letter, and then it'll be forwarded on to the appeals section for review. OK,
so what about appeals against cessation? Is the process the same?
Yes, it's very similar. In order to have your appeal considered, you must apply in writing by letter, fax or email. Give a reason. It's not enough to say, I wish to appeal. You must say why your authorisation or approval should not cease. To assist you, grounds of appeal are listed in the guidance. In time. Your written appeal must arrive within 14 working days from the date on the cessation notice. To the right place. It must be delivered to the address on the notice, usually VOSA's local area office. You don't have to complete the appeal yourself. Someone, a friend, employer, consultant or solicitor, can act on your behalf.
Are they allowed to make their appeal in person?
Yes, they can. An appellant can request an informal hearing whereby they can present their own representations in person to a member of the appeals section.
And details of this can be found in Appendix 8.8, can't they?
That's right. But it's important to note that any such informal hearing is additional to and not in place of any written representations.
And is it a bit like appearing in court?
No, not at all. It's informal and it'll be held in one of VOSA's meeting rooms.
And would anybody else attend an informal hearing?
Well, the appeals section will arrange the meeting and they'll invite representatives of the local area office to come along as well. And they may ask an engineer if any technical items may need further discussion for clarification.
And I assume that the AE or NT is also allowed to be represented by their trade association, consultant or solicitor?
Yes, you assume right, Robert, yeah. And any oral representations will be recorded and considered along with any evidence held on the file before an appeal is decided.
How independent is the appeal process?
Well, appeal sections are completely separate from and totally independent to VOSA's MOT operational policy areas. This is essential for the integrity of the process.
And what aspects of the case will they consider?
Well, they'll look at the local area office considerations and decisions, and also any interview responses and representations. They'll also consider to see if the disciplinary action taken was lawful, fair and reasonable, and whether any disciplinary action was proportionate to the circumstances.
So a complete review of the case then. How long does the appeal process usually take?
Well, it's normally processed within 5 weeks of the appeal date or the informal hearing. Most cases are processed in date order, and it's worthy of note that you may be in a queue of cases waiting to be processed.
If, say, an AE is anxiously waiting the outcome of an appeal, is there anything they can do?
If an AE or tester is anxious about the progress of their case, they can contact MOT Appeals to find out where they are in the queue and when they might expect a decision.
What happens if the date of cessation in the cessation notice has arrived, but the appeal hasn't yet been decided?
Well, you must stop testing on the date specified in the notice, even if you haven't yet had your decision. When the decision is made, appeals will write to you telling you what the decision is, along with a comprehensive explanation as to how the decision was made.
And what are the chances of an appeal succeeding?
Well, that will depend on the particular circumstances of the case, but currently about 20% of all appeals are successful.
What are the reasons that can lead to an appeal being allowed?
Well, for instance, if someone handling the disciplinary case has made a serious procedural error, or if there's doubt about the circumstances surrounding the case, the quality of the evidence, or the penalty imposed is considered to be too harsh.
OK, I've gone through the appeals process and lost. Is there anything I can do if I'm unhappy with the decision?
Yeah, there are 2 more avenues you can take. You can approach your Member of Parliament with a view to having the case referred to the Ombudsman, or alternatively, you can apply for permission to have the case reviewed by a judge by way of a judicial review.
Could you do that yourself?
Well, you can do, yes, but most people would take legal advice on that.
Overall, Jake, how many AEs or NTs are likely to encounter formal disciplinary action?
Well, actually, very few. Most authorised examiners and nominated testers take their roles and responsibilities very seriously, and generally they do a good job. To give you an example, only about 1% of testers each year will actually get involved in formal disciplinary action, and out of those, only a quarter will actually end up in cessation.
Great, Jake, thanks very much.
Thank you.